This is a famous disco dancing scene, and today's topic is called the disco attack. Yeah, if you've never heard of disco, ask your parents. But it's a nice, fun way to name a topic that's very important in chess. There's two types of learning in chess. There's chess tactics and there's chess strategy. Chess strategies are ideas that you use in chess. So the golden rules of chess, things like keep your king safe, they're strategies. The disco attack, or the correct name is the discovered attack, is a chess tactic. And chess tactics are specific moves. So chess strategies are ideas, chess tactics are specific moves that you do in a chess game. And usually they're played to get checkmate or win material, win points. So in the position that you can see in front of you, White is about to be able to play a discovered attack. You'll see that the rook attacks the queen through the bishop. So another name for a discovered attack is an X-ray attack. At the moment, of course, the rook can't take the queen because the bishop's in the way. But what if the bishop moved? And like pins, the way you find discovered attacks is you look for pieces in a line with each other. In this particular case, you look for two of your pieces in line with one of your opponent's pieces. So in this position here, you can play a discovered attack in a couple of different ways. Most powerfully, you can play your bishop up and attack the king with check. Another option would be to play your bishop across and check that way. In either case, the king should move towards the queen. So that when the rook takes the queen, the king takes back. So you get back a rook for a queen. So 9 points for 5 points. White has just made a 4-point play using a disco attack. So one way to use a discovered attack is to attack with a check, the priority of check, which we saw in the last example. But there doesn't necessarily have to be a check involved. Once again, White has pieces in a line. He's got his rook and bishop in line with the other bishop. So when the bishop moves, the rook will attack the bishop. And in this position, White can find a different target rather than giving check with the bishop. When the bishop moves, he can attack the knight. So he plays his bishop up to c5, and he attacks the bishop with his rook, and he attacks the knight at a3 with his bishop. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be a discovered check. It can be a discovered attack where you attack two pieces at once. And the power of the discovered attack is that you're attacking two things at once, and your opponent only has the one move to find a solution. So you can attack two pieces with a discovered attack, but you can also attack a piece and a square, an important square. Once again, the rook and the bishop are in a line along the E file here. But this time around, there's no piece there to attack. However, if you know the theme of the back rank checkmate, the square here is a very important square. If the rook can get to e8, it's checkmate. So this time around, what's happening is that when the bishop moves to discover an attack on the rook, the bishop is attacking the rook, and the rook now is attacking an important square. So black now has two very bad choices. He can give himself up for checkmate, or he can lose his rook. So of course, he probably wants to fight on, or a lot between grandmasters or good, strong club level players even. This would be the end of the game. Black might play a pawn out so that he can escape the check. And now you win a whole rook, and that's a very easy win for White from there. Okay, here's another example. As I said before, when you're looking for X-ray attacks, discovered attacks, look for pieces in a line. Two of your pieces, one of your opponent's pieces. So in this position, the bishop, the rook, and the opposing loose rook, loose meaning not protected in any way, in a line. And this is another example where you can attack an important square. Once again, black has back rank weakness. He can be checkmated with the right move. And the rook comes across and now attacks c8. At the same time, the bishop attacks the rook. So the checkmate is threatened and the rook is threatened. So a discovered attack, once again, causes black all sorts of problems here. Notice that it doesn't work if the rook comes to d4, because now the opposing rook can block access to the back rank and get out of the attack from the bishop at the same time. That's also the case if he tries the attack over at b4. Once again, the rook could block. So sometimes discovered attacks don't work. You have to be very careful that they work correctly. Sometimes your opponent will solve both problems at once. Okay, so here's one for you to solve. It's white to move and use a discovered attack to win material. Okay, so have a look at the position and see what you would do. If you need more time, press the pause button, but just have in mind what you think the correct move is. If you saw that the rook and the bishop are in line with the king, you've done well. And when the bishop moves, it'll be check. And so we use the priority of check. We play our bishop up to e8, check from the rook, king gets out of check, and we snavel a rook. We win a whole rook using a discovered check. Okay, so here's another one. Have a think what the best move would be. If you need more time, press the pause button, because I'm going to talk through the solution now. There's a number of very good moves, and hopefully, if you're getting the hang of this, the first thing you noticed is that the pieces in line are the rook and the bishop with the king, and so you would have been planning a discovered check with the bishop. The very best move is to win the rook. So bishop over gives a discovered check of the king by the rook, and then the bishop will go on to take the rook. There are other moves that win points, but not as many points. Bishop c5, check. This wins a knight, as does playing your bishop down to c1. You win the knight that way. And you can win 2 pawns by playing bishop takes b6. That's also check, and when the king moves you can take the a pawn as well. So they're all possibilities. You could go on and get the a pawn. But the very best move was the first one that we talked about, playing the bishop to d4, winning a rook. Why win 2 pawns when you can win a rook? I just wanted to show the other example so that you're always looking out for various possibilities in any position. There's a saying in chess, if you find a good move, look for an even better move. And just noticing there that you could put your bishop to a square like c5, because when you're giving check with another piece, you can put your piece, the piece that's moving, to any square you like, because it can't be captured because your opponent has to get out of check. So you can put your pieces in some unusual spots in discovered attack positions. Alright, here's another one. So first identify, it's white to move, first identify the pieces in a line that you want to use, and then see how you can do the most damage. So have a quick think about this position. If you need more time, press pause. So what's the best move in this position? Well, once again, it's a rook and bishop type situation along the G file. We can see rook, bishop, and rook. Take that back, sorry folks. Here you can see rook and bishop in line with the king. So it's going to be a bishop move. That's the only discovered attack battery that we have on the board. And it's not such a big deal in this particular position. You can win 1 pawn. So bishop takes pawn, discovered check by the rook. king moves, bishop runs away, and we've gained ourselves a pawn. White should go on to win pretty easily from there. These are very weak pawns. Isolated pawn here, double pawn there. Okay, so that's discovered check. We'll do one more. This one's a little bit trickier. Have a look around the board. It's white to move. First step in identifying a discovered attack is to find pieces in a line and then work out how you can do the most damage. See if you can find the answer to this one. If you need more time, press pause. Okay, the pieces in a line. This is a diagonal battery here. Queen, rook in line with king. Therefore, when the rook moves, it's check from the queen. So we can play rook takes bishop. It looks like the bishop's guarded by these pawns, but it's not because it's check. Black has to get out of check, and the rook escapes undamaged. You gain yourself a bishop through a discovered attack. So this is a picture of a disco dance floor. It's a floor with flashing lights, something that they came up with in the 70s. Sometimes when you're looking around the chessboard, think disco. Have a look for two of your pieces in a line and see if you can do some fancy footwork. Good luck in your games.